Hey guys, Tedar Plays here, and welcome back to another episode of this theory slash analysis slash discussion series and videos I'm doing. I don't even know what to call it anymore. So anyway guys, today we're going to be doing something similar to what I did in my last video. Kind of, we're doing a theory, I would say. Yeah, it's a theory, so we're going to be doing a series that I wanted to do like this type of video for ever since I had my old channel, but I never really got around to doing it, and that's Legend of Zelda. And there's a good reason for that. Despite Legend of Zelda having as deep a lore as like other fantasy series in video games like Dark Souls, The Witcher, or Elder Scrolls. Okay, maybe not Elder Scrolls, that's pretty complicated. And I think we need to research for this video. What the heck is millimeter time? What does that even mean? But I digress. And Legend of Zelda series seems to have some very deep and complex lore, but it's all over the place, inconsistent, and so it almost seems like they made the games first and then built the lore as they went, instead of making the lore first and building the games around it. Actually, come to think of it, that would make a lot more sense from a development standpoint. But anyway, case in point, the Hylian shield. Making its appearance in Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time back in 1998, the Hylian shield has become synonymous with the Legend of Zelda franchise, and is often seen as a counterpart to a Master Sword, and has since appeared in almost every Zelda game. But across those games, it behaves pretty differently. In Skyward Sword, it's treated as a super rare, super powerful item, and can only be obtained from the dragon Lanayru after defeating several boss challenges. Whereas in Ocarina of Time, you can just buy it in any store, and it has no function outside being a regular metal shield. The lore tells us something different, telling us that it's wielded by the Knights of Hyrule, which, if you didn't know, is an elite order of the very best warriors. So, which of these is it? In order to find out, we should look at each of the appearances the shield has made and organize all our information. In Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and A Link Between Worlds, the Hylian shield is just an ordinary metal shield. It can be bought in any shop and has no unique qualities about it. Despite this, the games give several pieces of evidence that the shield is intended for the Knights of Hyrule. It's also worth noting that in the remake of Ocarina of Time 3D, it's partially made of wood. Now, in Skyward Sword, things get a little confusing. In this game, the Hylian shield is the best shield in the game, beating out a fully upgraded Sacred Shield and being indestructible. It's also just as rare as it is powerful, as it can be obtained only from Lanayru, an ancient dragon that borders the line between spirit and deity, meaning it's most likely a mystical, possibly even divine origin. Just like the Master Sword and Light Bow, which are treated as objects. Making things even more complicated is Breath of the Wild. Flavor text supports the claim that the shield was intended for elite knights, and the method of obtaining it supports this. Unlike the other shields in the game, which can be found strewn across Hyrule, the Hylian shield can only be obtained by completing a trial in the chambers underneath Hyrule Castle, wherein the player must defeat a Skull Knucks mini-boss. The characteristics of the shield in this game also support that it is a super rare, powerful artifact. While it's not indestructible in this game, the fact that you can buy it from some random NPC in Terry Town after you complete that quest and obtain it legitimately the first time led me to believe that it breaking is just game mechanics and it's lore-wise indestructible. So we have all our data, and now we can try to answer these questions. First, I'm going to try and explain Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild's shield. With these two being the biggest outliers, it makes sense to tackle them first. First off, the Hylian shield and Skyward Sword is not wielded by the Knights of Skyloft. This is important because the Knights of Skyloft are the predecessor to the Knights of Hyrule, so this shows that the shield in Skyward Sword is the original. It's where it came from. So in Breath of the Wild, the shield is said to have a connection to the Legends of the Heroes, and it's shown to have connection to previous incarnations of Link. Knights of Hyrule also have connections to previous incarnations of Link, specifically the first two. And finally, the shield's appearance is slightly different across each of the games it appears in, but it's the same in both Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild. This leads me to a pretty interesting theory, that the shield in Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild is in fact a unique item. The shield is probably a unique and powerful artifact of similar vein to the Master Sword and Light Bow. However, the other ones we see in the other games were wielded by the Knights of Hyrule and their replicas. This isn't actually that far-fetched. There are several instances in the Zelda series of people trying to replicate legendary or mystical items, both in appearance and functionality. The light arrows, ancient arrows, and silver arrows are all replicas of the powers that the Bow of Light has. And the Breath of the Wild's Guard Sword and Royal Guard Sword are modeled after the Master Sword. It's not hard to believe that the Knights of Hyrule modeled their shields after the original Hylian shield. So that explains most of the questions, but still doesn't explain that why a shield that was designed for elite knights are being sold in basically every shop. Luckily, this question is not as hard to answer. If you look at each of the games where you can buy the Hylian shield in most stores, they all have one thing in common. They all take place not too long after a major war in Hyrule's history. Twilight Princess takes place after the theorized Gerudo Hylian War, which is not canon, but it's highly theorized that it is. There's a lot of evidence for it. And the Ocarina of Time takes place less than a decade after the Hylian Civil War. And A Link Between Worlds and A Link to the Past, which technically has Hylian shield, is complicated. It's not sure if it's Hylian shield or just another shield, but anyway, Link Between Worlds has it, and they're not too long after the Sealing War. So it makes sense then that there would be these shields strewed across Hyrule, and people would find them and try to sell them. I mean, it's not that far-fetched. Most of the shields you can obtain in Breath of the Wild just find in places. So it's not unlikely that after a war of that scale, which would be almost as destructive as the Calamity in Breath of the Wild, people would find shields just like you can find shields in Breath of the Wild, but instead of using them, since they don't have a use for them, they'll sell them. It kind of makes sense that way. After all, if there's that many shields around, it would make sense that they would come. Those wars were pretty large scale, so it makes sense that there would be that many around. Anyway, guys, this was my video on Hylian Shield. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to check out my other videos, especially if you enjoyed this one. Check out the Pokemon video I made. It's in a similar vein to this. Also check out my gameplay videos if you're interested in that type of thing. Remember to like, subscribe, share this video with a friend, all that stuff.